Hey gang, Lonnie Stevenson, part of the Lonnie and Patty team here at the Evergreen Home Loans office with my good friend Chris Rydell from Chicago Title.
Hello.
Chris, how's it going?
How are you doing?
So, we're talking escrow again today, and we've opened up escrow, and one of the big questions that a lot of people get asked is how do you want to take title? And if you're not familiar with Arizona, or even if you are in Arizona, a lot of times people don't know there are different ways to take title. How many different ways are there in Arizona?
Typically, there's about 5 that are normally used. There are a few other that have to do with businesses and corporations, but we're just going to talk about the general 5 today.
And they are?
They are generally in Arizona. Arizona is a community property state, so most of the time, or actually all the time, it's assumed when you take possession of a property that's going to be community property if you're married, husband and wife. What that basically means is both of you own 50% ownership in that. When one of the spouses, say for example, was to pass away, the other spouse still owns their 50%, but that 50% that's left is going to be divvied up depending upon whatever says in the spouse that passed away's will. So that can be very important. If that's not what you intend to have happen, that may not be the best way for you to take title, which is why there are other ways to take title.
And you have that option at the time of going in and purchasing a home of designating to the escrow person how I want to take title.
Right. And when you talk to your escrow officer, they're going to be able to give you a little bit more detail about what each one of these are, but they're not allowed to give you advice because we're not allowed to give you legal advice. So today we're not giving you legal advice, we're just kind of explaining to you the differences.
We're just trying to explain. If you want legal advice, tax advice, see the appropriate people, we can at least give you the basic information on what these definitions are. It is always best to have a conversation with your attorney and or tax professional to really see tax ramifications, and if you are setting up some sort of trust or some other mechanism, you want to make sure you have it structured properly. Get with that person and let them give you the direction. We just want to take care of some definitions here.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we got community property.
Community property. The other most common one that's used is joint tenancy with right of survivorship. And again, we're talking about when a couple takes this possession of a property, takes title. The reason why people use joint tenancy with right of survivorship is if in case of a death of one of the spouses, the other spouse automatically, with just by recording the death certificate, is automatically put in the title of that house. They get that property 100% now transfers to the remaining spouse without having to do anything, without having to go through probate, without having to pay taxes. So generally speaking, that's what people like to use because they want to protect their other half.
Okay. So that's 2.
That's 2. The third one is community property with right of survivorship. Now that's very similar to joint tenancy with right of survivorship. The difference is it has the benefits of community property where you both have 50% ownership, but when one of them passes, it converts kind of into joint tenancy because it automatically transfers over just the same way. Again, this is something that you're going to want to talk to your tax advisor or your specialist about because there's tax implications involved when you do it that way, and that's why some people choose to do it that way. But it's very similar to joint tenancy.
Okay. So, and then the next one is if I'm a single guy buying a house.
That's a little bit different. There's 2 things. If you're married and you can also, again, it's going to be assumed that you're taking it in community property because Arizona's a community property state. You can, however, being married, take possession sole and separate. So if you wanted to buy a piece of property and be in just your name, that can be done. You can put it sole and separate, so maybe just the husband would own it or maybe just the wife would own it, but the other spouse does have to sign a disclaimer deed so that they know that they know that the husband is buying this property since Arizona is a community property state. If the person is single, we always want to state somewhere in there that they are single or unmarried. That way there's no confusion, because you may have bought a piece of property when you were single and then you may have later got married. So when you took title as single, then we know, because you have it as a single person, that you purchased that property when you were unmarried.
Okay. And then if you and I are buying a house together,
that's
aren't married to each other, so how would we take title?
That's actually the 5th way. It's called tenancy in common, and that's used when it can be used by a married couple. Very rarely is. Tenancy in common is used when two or more people that are maybe friends or business, it may be a business transaction like me and Lonnie buying something together, where it's an undivided interest in a piece of property. So if you don't state when you take title and tenancy in common, that means I own 50%, you own 50%. If there was three of us, it would be 33, 33, 33, and so on. Okay. And at that point, we each have a separate specified ownership. And the other ones, like tenancy in common, you both own, like joint tenancy, you both own 100% together, where tenancy in common splits it up into portions.
Okay. And a lot of times we have seen two married couples in the state or buying a second home here in Havasu. So there are a couple of different options there for them to take title.
Yep.
Again, no legal advice, no tax advice. There's obviously legal and tax ramifications with whatever decision you make. So make sure that you have a discussion with your professional before escrow closes. Even if they make a choice at the beginning, that can still be changed before the final documents, so we can correct something before it closes. Now, if escrow's closed and they need to change the way that they're taking title,
that's always something that can be done as well.
Okay. All right. So again, check with your tax professional. And if we need to open up an escrow with Chicago Title,
give us a call. We're here for you.
What's phone number?
Oh, you want our phone number? 928.
It's a secret.
855-4196.
And we're here in Havasu on Lake Havasu Avenue, corner of Lake Havasu Avenue and Mulberry. And if you need to send an email to Chris.
Chris, it's chris.riedel, R-I-E-D-E-L, @ctt.com.
All right. So with that, I hope that helped a little bit clarify some of the different ways of taking title in Arizona. Again, no legal advice. Can't stress that enough. And with that, we're going to do a couple more videos.
More coming up.
And keep you informed. And if you think of anything that you want us to cover, give us a shout out. Send Chris an email. We'll do a video on that, or you can send me one as well. With that, everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.